The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Talkin Cowboys.
Broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys training camp in Oxnard, California.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Barry, sacked by Lord. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Mickey Spagnola, Rob Phillips, and Kyle Yeomans.
We are doing away with the ramp up as padded practices are here in Oxnard, California. Welcome into a Monday edition of Talkin Cowboys here on DallasCowboys.com, live from Radio Row. Alongside Mickey Spagnola, Rob Phillips, I'm Kyle Yeomans. As, like I just said, the ramp up period of 4 unpadded practices is in the rearview mirror, and the Cowboys get to have some physicality starting this week. This is when the fun really starts to begin, Rob. Things start to ramp up, and we finally get to see a little bit more of an accurate picture of what this Cowboys team is going to look like.
It's time. It's time. You ready, Mick?
I
you out of
am
breath from
ready.
yesterday still? You good?
Not good.
Okay. Didn't sound like a relaxing day off for you, but yeah, let's go.
No, it was great. Guess what I saw yesterday, or felt? Raindrops.
No.
It actually rained during our bike ride when we were in Ventura. When's the last time you think I felt or saw raindrops?
I was about to say, I'm starting to believe they're not true. I think it's a myth.
Yeah.
June?
Especially being from Texas and then coming here where it really doesn't rain.
What is rain? What is that? What
it
is
has
that
to
thing
be
called
June,
rain?
right?
Yeah, probably. Maybe even before that. Maybe May.
People were running
May
for
showers.
cover. People were running for cover, and I'm riding my bike going, oh, this is great.
You're singing in the rain. Mickey
That's right.
Spagnola. How about
34
that?
miles on bike, huh?
Raindrops were falling on my head.
Just a little peek behind the curtain. Yeah, 34 miles, that's not an exaggeration. Mickey went 34 miles, but more importantly, Alex Lilly went with him.
That's right.
He's one of our production guys. He's fantastic, does the sounds of the sideline. He does so many different things for DallasCowboys.com that you don't really get to see his name on.
He got the Vasher TD on
did.
social. For everybody that saw that,
Yes.
we're treated to that. So, yeah.
So he
Alex
does a
is the man.
phenomenal job running the camera, but he went with Mickey on this bike ride, and he's still in the room. He hasn't emerged yet. We don't know where he's at. He may just not be able to get out of bed
No,
this
I
morning.
saw him coming back from breakfast.
Okay, so he did make it out
and
of
he
bed.
said he was good.
I'm glad you're ready to go. Let's
Yep.
go.
So Mickey
Pads.
got some conditioning in. That's kind of what it has felt like for the Cowboys the first 4 days. It feels like an extension of OTAs, an extension of minicamp. But, Mickey, now that we get into padded practices, we finally get to see the trenches go at it. We get to see what the running backs, the linebackers look like. It's a complete picture of this ball club.
Yeah, they named Saturday the return to football. Today's the return to football,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They put the pads on. We're actually going to see them in pads. You know, we go through the whole off season, and they go through these mini camp and OTA practices and helmets, jerseys, and shorts, and you keep qualifying everything you say. Like, well, yeah, okay, but they're not in pads. Wait till we get to training camp. Now you get to training camp, and you got to go, well, we got to wait a week before we see them in pads. So finally today the pads come on, and we have a better idea, we'll get a better idea of what these offensive linemen are doing. You can't play the offensive line unless you have pads on, unless you can be physical, unless you can hit somebody. And that's why every year, well, the defense is ahead of the offense. Well, yeah, because the offense functions the way the offensive line functions. And if those guys don't have their whole, as the guys like to say, toolbox with them, then, yeah, well, how do you judge it? So now we find out where this offensive line is.
Yeah, I'm glad you explained that because I think we just state it all the time every year, and maybe we don't explain why it's important for pads, especially for offensive linemen, even linebackers too, because I think the offensive line, they're not able to be as aggressive, especially in pass protection. They can't get their hands on guys. It's not an evaluation that you can really look at and say it's a fair evaluation. So that's why we always talk about skill players, the quarterbacks, those spots, how the DBs are covering. You can judge that a little bit better. But, yeah, we finally get to see the good stuff today.
And how about just play football instead of saying, okay, we're in 2 minutes so the defense knows you're passing, right? Or this is the passing drill, or this is the running drill. Well, how about just play football and say, okay, we're calling plays, now you play defense.
That's a great point because pretty much through the early parts of practices, it's almost like glorified 7-on-7. You got a couple guys in front kind of just working with their pass sets. They're looking at blocking schemes and things like that. Sure, they're getting work in terms of the foundation that they're laying. But on the outside, it's 7-on-7. There are no pads. It's just shirts and helmets, and then you're going up, and that's how we can evaluate some of the wide receivers, corners, safeties, etc. Linebackers, yeah, it's really like looking at reads with linebackers, like who took a good first step, who was in the right place at the right time, because then you still don't get any of that physicality, and now we get a chance to do so. But with that being said, let's take a look back in the first 4 practices, because the last time we had Talkin Cowboys, we had only 1 practice down. We've seen 3 more since then. So let's wrap up the ramp up and go into what we've seen so far out here in Oxnard. Rob, what are some of the things that have stood out to you?
Well, I think Mickey hit on it. I think the defense has been flying around in the no pads practices, and I think you could say, yeah, they've probably had more success in the team periods than the offense has. That's not a surprise. It'll even out as we go. And the offense has had moments. I mean, Dak and CD have had some connections. I think if you want to look at some guys that have stood out, there are some wide receivers that have made some plays out here. And, Jalen Tolbert, 3rd-round draft pick, is one guy that's done it. Dennis Houston kind of flashes here and there. If you're looking at a running back not named Zeke or Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle's got some shifty to him. He looks good and healthy coming off of the hip injury from last year. So defensively, Micah Parsons, obviously. Anthony Brown is off to a good start. The DBs are really out there flying around making plays on the ball, and that's been impressive. So that's the best evaluation you can get from this kind of thing early on.
Does that kind of come with what Mick was talking about, though, is that the ability to fly around because you kind of know what's coming? I mean, you're tipped off because – hey, guys, we're going to go into the scramble drill now. That means the quarterback's going to roll out. You know you're going to have plenty of time to cover your receiver, and then the throw down the field's going to happen. So how much does that play into the factor of how good this defense looked, and could we expect to see maybe a step back in that regard?
Well, it'll be interesting because you're right. On a scramble drill, so the DB knows it's a scramble drill. So I'm not falling for your first move because they're not throwing it to you, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to have to scramble, and then you just lock on to the guy, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to have to run with him, so let's go. It's more real, right? And I think, we could see guys can move in this ramp up stuff, and it's not a bad thing because a lot of times when they used to put the pads on and go 2-a-days right off the bat, you got a lot of injuries, and the idea these days is let's get to September 11th, right? Let's not worry about August 11th, and so I think it helps from a health standpoint. But, yeah, I can see that Marquise Bell can run as a safety, right? Okay, fine. Now, we're not playing grab butt out there tackling, if you know what I mean.
Nice save.
Right? Yeah. You're not touching up. You're
PG show.
You got a thump up, right? You got to actually use your pads and say, okay,
ramp up the thump up.
I would have hit the guy, right? Because they do that 2-minute drill, and all they're doing is tagging the guy, and the guy Bones blows the whistle, and that's where the ball is spotted.
Yeah.
Well, would you have tackled him? Well, who knows?
Yeah, and
so we get a better idea.
I will say, for the most part, there is speed out there. They're going full speed, not in every drill. But guys of this size doing that, it's still competitive, but it's not as physical for sure. And to your point with the scramble drills, there's also no threat of the running game.
No,
if you're a defensive lineman who's just getting up the field, you don't have to worry about anything else. So yeah, it's not a full evaluation.
Because the guys asked me about John Ridgeway, and I go, I
haven't seen him. Yeah,
he hadn't had a chance to play football, and so now you'll see where he's at. I do like the looks of the inside, though, with Gallimore back in there. I think he makes a huge difference in what they got at defensive tackle, getting him on the field. Mm-hmm. Next to Osa, we always forget about Watkins.
Yep.
He's still there.
Quentin Bohanna's even getting some snaps.
Yeah, so we get an idea what those guys are doing against the run inside, or what they can't do once the offensive linemen start leaning on them.
Right.
I think that's a better judgment of actually what's going on, and we'll get how many 2-3 of these in a row before they have to take a
break.
a day.
Yep.
2, and then the mock game. Is
Mock
that right?
game is Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then they get right back in, and they have 3 more, right, toward the end of the week. So
I
it's
think so, yes.
Monday, Tuesday padded. Mock game Wednesday is kind of a breather, and then you get
Close
Thursday,
mock game,
Friday,
yeah.
Saturday. Yeah, we're not a part of that. So
Yeah.
And then another day off on
day
Sunday.
off on Sunday. Yep.
Nothing happens on Sundays out here this year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very synergistic. I like it. I like it. I like knowing I've got my Sundays off.
Because normally the only Sunday you might get off is if they played a preseason game on Saturday,
yeah.
and
Yep.
traveled, and by the time you get back here, then Sunday's sort of a day off.
Yep.
So, Mick, out of the first 4 practices, who stood out to you in terms of the evaluation that you could make?
I think from what we can evaluate, I think Jalen Tolbert looks like the real deal. I think we thought that. I think the more and more I see of him, I like it even more. Now, it's another thing. You can catch the ball out there, but it's another thing to catch it when you know somebody's going to hit you.
Get hit.
And they're not going to hit him, right? They're going to thump him, as they say.
A thump up.
But still, it's not a free pass, right? And you never know when the DBs, like I like to say, boys will be boys, and when the pads come on, you start playing football. And then the other thing is, we didn't get to see him in OTAs and mini camps. I didn't know that James Washington was that big. I was thinking
Wide, right?
He was he's
not a tall receiver.
I thought he had his shells on the other day. His shoulders are big, and he can still run. And I'll be interested to see him some more because we're sitting there going, okay, there's not going to be Gallup at the beginning. Now, can Washington step up? Can he play a role where he was just kind of a backup sort of guy at Pittsburgh, or maybe the third receiver? Can he be the second receiver?
Yeah.
Because I think you would be asking Tolbert a lot to be the second receiver when you're asking CD to be the first receiver. I feel better about CD taking that lead role. Because when we got here, I think the wide receiver position had a big question mark on it.
Yeah.
It probably still does.
Still does.
But
Still
let's,
does.
let's see, right?
Yeah, and I think you hit on it when you first started your point. Like, it's so early. Preseason is usually a great judge for receivers. We've seen receivers stand out here early in camp, and then the lights come on in the games, and some young guys don't show up as much.
Yeah.
So how does that carry over? And I think we mentioned Vasher's TD catch. Like, it's beyond that. He's made some plays out here too,
Sure. And
that goes all the way back to OTAs. I mean, I think he's had a nice offseason heading into camp to try to win a roster spot. So, and I think you mentioned, like, linebacker position, just for example, guys that you see, or at least in the right spot. I see Leighton Vander Esch in the right spot a lot.
A ton.
Snuffing out plays.
Speaking of going back to OTAs, he's done that all summer.
Being in position to make plays. You see he's on point with his assignments early on the defensive side of the ball.
Let me give you another one. And I was going to ask you guys, because I think this stood out more maybe Saturday than before. Are they giving Will Grier a chance to win that backup quarterback spot?
Yeah, go
I
to
believe they do.
DallasCowboys.com and visit Kyle Yeoman's fine work. He just wrote about that over the weekend, actually.
They're sharing snaps. It's not only snaps, but it's pure second-team snaps. And it looks like Rush is kind of one of those guys that he's one of the first ones out there, and then it's Grier that gets the majority of the rest of the snaps. So Rush goes first, and then Grier gets the rest of the snaps. And then on Saturday it actually flipped,
right?
And they had even snaps, but Grier went first. So
he went first all of it until they got to the last 2-minute drill.
Yes,
I want to say.
and I've got I charted their throws. So Grier started 2 for 2. He went for a 15-yard completion to Noah Brown. Then he had a 17-yard touchdown throw to Simi Fehoko in the back of the end zone. Really nice throw. And then he had a PBU from Deron Bland. I want to get to Bland here in a minute too. And then he got broken up on a corner route as well. Rush went also 2 for 4. PBU and a should have been picked by Nashawn Wright were the 2 pass breakups. He had an 8-yard completion and then a 7-yard completion to a running back in Shamplin that was a little bit underthrown. So Grier's throws have been more on the money. He's had better looks. He's had better results through the first last 4 practices so far. And I think even going into training camp, there was an expected quarterback competition, but I think now that's continued to get ramped up because you know what the floor is in terms of Cooper Rush. You know he can go win you a game, but if you can improve upon that position and still keep it on a low end of the salary cap, then why not at least look at a potential?
Yeah, I thought coming into this with Greer that he was competing to be on the 53 as the third quarterback.
Yeah, like last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I think there may be more. And I don't know why I had this perception, and I said it to Brad Sham, my roommate, by the way.
Ooh.
I said, I always thought Greer was this kind of, he ran a lot. And Brad
He's mobile.
goes, no, I don't know. And he looked up his stats at West Virginia. Man, he threw the hell out of the
Yeah, he
football.
played in the air raid offense
Right?
at West Virginia.
Yes.
So, yeah.
He's mobile, though, Mick. Well,
No,
yeah,
he is.
You're right. He can run.
He can. Now, he's a tad short. I think they got him listed at, I want to say,
Give me 2 seconds.
6'1", maybe.
6'1", 220 pounds.
That's
Cooper Rush is 6'3" for
I guess
comparison.
that's Tony Romo territory.
Yeah.
But he I think he plays bigger. He looks bigger out there. And so maybe, I want to see more. And my other thought was he's going to have to play a lot in these first 2 preseason games, right?
Yes.
I don't think Dak's seeing the field.
Probably not.
He'll play, judging from what Mike said about, he's going to practice a lot against Denver and the Chargers.
Mike
right?
gave us a huge hint on what Dak might be doing in
Wink,
the
wink.
season.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I think they're going to get, let him practice so he's ready to play in those preseason games. So who knows? They know what Cooper Rush is. Nothing's going to change. Give this kid a chance to start a game maybe. That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, he threw the Vasher touchdown, right?
He did.
Yes.
And that ball was a great catch by TJ.
I thought he
but
was throwing it to me. No, it was high and far.
It was a phenomenal throw because Kelvin Joseph was all over T.J. Vasher. If that throw was not where
Yes.
it was, Vasher doesn't have an opportunity to make it.
Exactly.
And if this was a real deal, once again, there would have been a flag.
There
on
was a
Calvin
flag.
Joseph.
Yeah,
The guy
Kelvin
throw
got
it?
through.
Yeah.
Had a flag at the end of it. So
where I'm going there is that going back to college to where you referenced West Virginia, that was probably his best strength was his accuracy. He was a very accurate and productive. A lot of big stats in college with that offense, but maybe the knock coming out. And by the way, he was a 3rd-round draft pick.
Yes.
So I mean, he had some talent, obviously, that teams saw coming out. Doug Nussmeyer is the quarterback's coach, is the connection going back to Florida before he transferred to West Virginia. Arm strength was probably the knock on him coming out.
Yep.
But, I mean, I think
it had to do a lot with his size.
Yeah, I think he can make the functional NFL throws, though, just like Cooper Rush. I don't think Cooper Rush has a cannon. Can he make the throws? Yeah, he made the throws against Minnesota. So, I think – like you, coming in, I think Cooper Rush is the guy behind Dak. But, hey, this is interesting, and that's a good problem to have if you got more competition than you think.
Some of the West Virginia numbers for Will Greer that we're kind of talking about here, 64% as a junior at West Virginia, 67% completion as a senior. He had a 37 touchdown, 8 interception ratio, and he also rushed for 122 yards that season as well.
But I think he threw for like 3,000 or 4,000.
3,800 yards.
Yeah, almost 4,000
I mean, it was
yards.
It was a phenomenal season. He was up toward the top of the list. But yeah, I think there's a quarterback competition, at least behind Dak Prescott. And
I wonder
Cooper Rush isn't.
What happened at Carolina that they gave up on him so soon?
He started 2 games. He lost both of them. He went no touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
Yeah, he had a bunch of picks.
Yeah, he didn't necessarily play well, and that was as a rookie. I mean, that was good time ago. So maybe it's a new opportunity, new scenery will give him a good chance to be a backup.
Go back and look at Tony Romo's rookie year in training camp.
I was going to say, Tony didn't play till he's, 4th season in the league?
I saw him throwing the
3rd?
ball, and I'm going, get this guy out of there. He can't hit anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he figured it out,
What
didn't
did I know?
Bill didn't think he was ready.
Yeah, well,
And he was right.
He probably
Maybe he
wasn't.
Yeah, right.
All right, when we come back, I'm not taking my eyes off of the trenches here in these next couple of days because the pads are back on and the physicality is back. But when we come back, how high is the ceiling for the defensive line and for this front 7 of Dan Quinn's defense when we come back with more Talkin' Cowboys?
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
This sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a broken traffic light. Stop and go is the name of my game. It's easy. You go, they go. Or was it, they go, you go? And if you have the wrong car insurance, these repair costs could stop you in your tracks. So get Allstate's new low auto rate and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Not available in every state based on coverage and limits selected. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Are you a Cowboys fan who spices up the game? Nominate yourself or others for the Cowboys Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan, and win a trip to Super Bowl 57 in Arizona. Nominate today at DallasCowboys.com/Fan of the Year. That's a great competition brought to you by Captain Morgan. We welcome you back to Talkin' Cowboys on Radio Row in Cowboys Training Camp, Oxnard, California. Mickey Spagnola filling in. We've got Rob Phillips. I'm Kyle Yeomans. And, gentlemen, let's talk about that defensive line. I'm really excited about what they can bring to the table. Mickey, you even alluded to it earlier in the show, but there's a lot of conversation about the interior. It's a very crowded interior room, and we mentioned a number of names. Neville Gallimore, Tristan Hill, Chauncey Golston now apparently into that mix. Carlos Watkins. There's so many names there. But what is the ceiling for that defensive line, and can they really be a strength of this defense in 2022?
Well, since you mentioned all those guys, I just marked the guys that we know, right?
Okay.
There's 12 of them.
Wow.
Somebody ain't going to make it.
Nobody's making it, right? Or not everybody's making it.
Right? They usually keep 10.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, Fowler.
Okay.
Sam Williams.
And this is including edge rushers.
Tristan Hill,
okay.
Marcus Lawrence, Carlos Watkins, Doris Armstrong, Terrell Basham, Ridgeway, Neville Gallimore, Osa Odigizua, Quentin Bohanna, and now Chauncey Golston, because in the offseason they basically said, well, you know, he's got to be versatile. We're seeing if he can play inside. Well, I haven't seen him play defensive end yet out here. He's been inside, and he looks the part. Like, he's big.
Put on 20 pounds this offseason is what he told me.
Is that what he said?
Yep.
And I'll vouch for it. They got him listed as 277. So that's kind of the size of a he's bigger than DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah. D-Law's at what, 265?
Well, he said 250.
He has slimmed down too.
250.
Yeah, they got him listed at 254.
Wow. He does look leaned up.
Yeah, and I thought it. First of all, he cut his hair.
Yeah, he did.
So it makes his face look smaller, right? He had the dreads. But yeah, they got him listed at 254, and he said he wants to play somewhere between, around 245 to 255. So yeah, guys that big, their weight fluctuates. So yeah, this will be good to see, and how they're using everybody. Doris Armstrong. I haven't seen him out there rushing the quarterback when they go to their nickel.
Yeah.
And that's when you're trying to get your best 4 pass rushers on the field. Sam Williams, I think he looks the part. It may be some transition for him, but how quickly can he make it from college to the NFL? We forget how good Gallimore was because he hardly played last year. This guy is really good.
Played in only 5 games, started 4 of those. And Rob, when you're looking at the long list of names here that Mickey's naming off, is there anybody that you look at that is potentially in trouble that's on the chopping block at that point? Because that's 12 good names. And that's also not to mention a name that we're going to bring up later that they even came in and worked out. Is there even room for an addition in that regard?
That's where I was going. That's what you want to go there now?
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Zack Mckinley visits with the Cowboys over the weekend, and that it kind of raises some eyebrows, to your point, because it's like, where is there room? Now, I think Stephen Jones told us out here, confirmed that they had the visit and said you can't ever have enough pass rushers, and he's right. I mean, think about when DeMarcus Lawrence goes down all of a sudden week 2 in practice last season and misses 10 games, and now you got Micah Parsons playing exclusively edge rusher for a couple weeks. So I think that's a key. But yeah, I mean, especially on the interior, how does that shake out? And everybody wants to question, well, Tristan Hill last year, his deal, where could he fit in this group? I think he's off to a pretty good start here in Oxnard too. So we'll see. But to your overall question about where this group can go, I think it goes beyond just, hey, can they build on 41 sacks? They were middle of the pack last year with 41 sacks. Did a nice job. A lot of that was coming from Micah Parsons playing everywhere, had 13 last season. It goes beyond that. It's keeping DeMarcus Lawrence healthy. It's finding a way to replicate, maybe exceed Randy Gregory's production on the other side with Dante Fowler, with Doris Armstrong, if he can take a step forward. Mick mentioned Sam Williams as well. They're going to collectively try to fill that spot. But it's beyond the pass rush and the sacks. It's stopping the run. To me, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Because they were way improved in 2021 from 2020. There was nowhere to go but up last season. But the last image was 169 rushing yards by San Francisco. And I get that they're unique, and I get that nobody's really better than they are at that. But you may see them again in the playoffs. And that's the type of team you're going to have to deal with. And it's a topic we've talked about off and on since probably 2018, consistent run defense. They got to keep getting better there.
Yeah, and I just got the feeling on this McKinley thing that they were kicking tires.
Think so?
Yeah, I think it was like, okay, let's take a look. I mean, there's a reason why he's out there right now, right?
Yeah.
And he hasn't been that great. And you can look up his stats, but he's been a guy.
20 sacks in 60 games.
60. So is that
and most of those came in his first 3 seasons. He's been in the league for 5 years. Over the last 2, he's only played in 14 games. He started 6.
But he played for Dan Quinn for a lot of years, and so I mean he carries a big voice here.
It was pointed out to me the Cowboys passed on him and took Taco.
Yeah. So in the draft.
No, he went 1 pick before Taco.
One before they couldn't get to him.
Yeah.
Okay,
they liked him a lot.
So
26 overall.
He's coming off the Achilles,
and Achilles in December.
Another Achilles guy, right?
Now they had some success with Malik Hooker, obviously.
Yeah, but he wasn't Malik Hooker last year. He was good enough to bring back, right?
No, I'm just saying. I think if he's healthy, and Jerry told us they think he could be maybe ahead of Malik Hooker, which. Kind of surprising to me just because, Malik tore his last September or 2 Septembers ago, and this was a December one, Chris, right? So, but if he can step in and help, that's a nice addition, potentially just part of a rotation. But the question is, from a number standpoint, how do you make it work?
Well, that's my thing is Malik Hooker didn't come into a crowded room. He didn't come into a safety situation that you said, okay, we have too many guys depth-wise at this position to really spend capital and go and grab a guy. Whereas defensive line, you have an embarrassment of riches at the moment. It's seemingly so that you have guys that you could stash even for a little bit, Mick.
Well, don't you think Basham's somewhat in trouble?
Could be. Veteran.
I mean,
a little bit bigger contract.
Was he on a 2-year
deal?
Yeah.
12 million, or no, excuse me, 5.5 million.
Yeah,
so it's still
that's not that
big.
much. It's not like, oh, he's making too much, I got to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
No. I'm just saying from a production standpoint, He's got to keep an eye on himself.
Started
Especially
17 games, or played in 17.
If you want Golston to play inside, and you're probably not going to give up on him this early.
Yep.
Bohanna, Ridgeway, can you keep both of those guys, or does one of them just make it? And they'll make that decision. So, yeah, from a pass rush standpoint, I know you can't have enough pass rushers, but we got to find out, do they have more than just DeMarcus Lawrence? And that's the other thing. I think a lot of people forget Lawrence only played like 7 games last year, if I remember correctly.
7 games, 21 tackles, 3 sacks.
Everybody said, well, he had 3 sacks. Well, he played less than half a season.
Yeah.
And when you come back, those first 2 games, big deal, right? You're still trying to get into it after getting hurt after the first game of the season and missing all that time. So I think he's sort of the key to this whole thing. Can he be the DeMarcus Lawrence we know when he was healthy?
Yeah.
When he was healthy and not spending the entire offseason rehabbing instead of trying to take steps to get better, you're taking steps to get back to where you were. And I think that could be huge if they get that out of him at defensive end and moving inside at defensive tackle on the nickel, where it's like, okay, who you double teaming? Because if Micah Parsons standing next to him, well, they got to keep an eye on him. And the thing I liked that Quinn did last year is a lot of times they had their 4-man line with DeMarcus Lawrence at left defensive end, and Parsons looked like he was a linebacker, and then he got on the line of scrimmage next to D-Law. And now it's like, okay, who's staying in the block? Is it the tight end? Is it the running back? And can I double team him if they got 5 guys on the line and he's the furthest one to the outside? How are you going to do that?
We didn't see enough of that package last year, man.
No,
we did
more towards the end.
No,
right?
we just didn't get
still not enough though.
Because of injuries and stuff. We didn't see enough of Micah, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Randy Gregory. It was only like 100 and something snaps.
It was the first game of the year, Tampa Bay, and then they had to wait 10 weeks plus for that to come back and actually put it into fruition.
Well, that's because Lawrence came back.
Right,
correct.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that was such a great package to have, and you had to just pick who you're gonna double, who you're gonna slide help to, and so now they got to rework that without Randy. But that's the importance of having D-Law, because he elevates this group.
And here's what makes that work. Van Der Esch.
Sure.
Because now you can trust him at linebacker.
Yep.
They played around with Jalen Smith. They could see Jalen Smith out here last year that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
But it took 4 or 5 games before they said, okay, we're done. And everybody said, well, yeah, but it was his contract. No, it wasn't his contract. He just wasn't playing well. And the Bears picked him up, and was it the Bears?
No, Giants.
Giants, and he didn't do
anything.
And he's still out there now?
I believe he's a free agent.
He's a free agent?
Yeah.
So
Packers. He went to the Packers.
That's right, Packers also.
So anyway, the key to all that is having a linebacker that can play, and you can use Parsons in different ways. You don't have to just say, okay, he's my linebacker. Now, the key thing there may also be Jabril Cox.
Yeah.
Can he step in and play and give me 3 linebackers I can sink my teeth into? I think it's funny that there may not be free agent linebackers out there worth looking at. They bring in a guy that's a defensive end, but that linebacker crew, that's pretty thin.
Yeah.
To me. So, I mean, what can Van Der Esch stay healthy the whole year?
Yeah, and it could get thinner if he kind of played chess here, and if something happens again up front to an edge rusher like a DeMarcus Lawrence, and you've got to move Micah around again, now you're even thinner at linebacker. So there could be a domino effect. So I think that's a position they've got to continue to look at and see if somebody can step up. Like you said, Jabril Cox, I don't know if they would go out and sign a veteran, but it's something I think that's a position they're going to monitor and see how the guys perform.
And it comes down to, is there somebody out there worth sinking your teeth into, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like the offensive line with Willetsko. They're sitting there contemplating, okay, that shoulder, if we give him a couple weeks, can he come back? Can he play with a harness on, or does he need surgery immediately? Well, if he does, then who's your backup swing tackle? you're going to have to start looking at free agency to bring in a veteran.
Unless it's Josh Ball.
Yeah, and he's not played the left side.
Tyler Smith is a guard right now. Like I
Yep.
haven't seen him take any reps at tackle. They want to keep him at guard for now.
Ball
and compete
did
for that
slide in
job.
at left tackle, and he took left tackle reps throughout training camp, and then of course into the offseason as well.
I'm just saying, unless they're going to commit to a fourth-round pick to be the guy.
They got to look in free agency, and I looked in free agency, and
there's not a lot out there.
Oh,
yeah.
You know, who was it? I wrote it down. The Bears signed Riley Reef.
Yeah.
$3 million 1 year, but he's been in the league forever.
We need to take a break.
Okay.
But I do want to talk about offensive line. That's kind of where we're going next. Okay. Yeah, and I don't want to cut you off.
He's going to start it on the swing tackle.
I know. We're going to get right back into it. But when we come back,
why aren't they Pro Bowlers?
Let's go from defensive line back into the offensive line with more Talkin Cowboys.
Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Whether you're watching from home or you're cheering in the stands with Essilor lenses, you can see every exciting play. Book an appointment at your local Essilor experts and see what Essilor can do for you. See more, do more, Essilor. Gentlemen, I have some sad news.
Can you see more and do more?
Not right now. I can't find my Essilor lenses.
Oh, Kyle.
I can't find them. I brought them out here to camp. I wear them on camera almost every time we are live. And, yep, I set them down when we went to the lunchroom, and they have disappeared.
Oh, you did not find them?
I have not found them. Yep. So
sorry, buddy.
I'm going to give you an update when we come back on Wednesday, whether or not I have them, or I may have to talk to our friends over at Essilor and see more and do more.
Well, I bet they're listening right now, and they're going, okay, we've got all his specs. Let's just send him a replacement.
I'm sure they probably have it all taken care of. They do great work over there, so go find you the perfect Essilor lens for you. All right, don't want to spend too much time on that. We're kind of running out of time here.
But that's important.
Yeah, it is important. Mike McCarthy coming up at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 12 Central time, by the way. It'll be streamed live on DallasCowboys.com and on the social sites. Mickey, you wanted to get into offensive line, but I might kind of detour you a little bit into
you just try
Formula
the
One?
Interior. No, I don't want to talk. I do want to talk Formula One, but I'm going to try and push you to talk about the interior of the offensive line. I want to hear about Tyler Biotis, and do you have confidence in him that he can be the anchor for an offensive line that has tried to repair some of the holes outside of him?
Yes. Now give him somebody that's stable at left guard.
That's all he needs to be successful.
Well, are you going to can the guy after 1 year of starting? Just 1 year?
Mm-hmm.
Because he only.
Is that a yes?
No, I was just.
I thought you were a matter of fact.
Said, yes,
actually, yes, I would.
Okay. Well, then we were going to have a further discussion.
No, I'm not hating on Tyler Biotis. I just want to hear your confidence level.
I think he's fine. I think, with a year experience, I look back at Mark Stepnoski. Mark Stepnoski was not Mark Stepnoski in 1989 nor 1990 when he played his first full season in the NFL at center. It took him a while to develop himself, and I think Biotis can do the job. I hear everybody say, well, he can't handle big guys. Well, no one can handle big guys. Tell me who's handled Aaron Donald. Tell me who's handled Ndamukong Suh or Vita Vea, right? Everybody has trouble with those guys. So, you might have to give him some help. He's got Martin on the other side. So I'm not worried about him. They got to prove they got a left guard, and they got to reassure me that the right tackle is what they've projected.
Okay.
And those would be my concerns on and backup offensive tackle.
I know.
Who is it?
I don't know. We talked about this last week. I don't know. And if you're a good offensive tackle in this league, you're probably on an NFL roster right now.
So here's the names. You want to show you four names that are out there?
That's why they're drafting guys 2 years in a row.
Eric Fisher, he's 31. No one wants him. He came back last year from a torn Achilles and didn't play well enough.
Nope.
Marcus Cannon, herniated disc. Brian Bulaga was on IR, and they waived him injured after the season. He had back injury. And Nate Solder, if you watched him with the Giants, it's like, okay, if I can get the guy for $1 million, maybe so. And then, like I just said, the Bears signed Riley Reif, 1 year, $3 million, but all he has to do is play 10% of the snaps, and he gets $4.5 million.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you an idea of what's out there from a veteran standpoint. Not much, and the last thing you really want to do is get older, because all these guys are in their 30s.
Well, let me ask you this, because you're not asking for a guy to come in and play 17 games, knock on wood.
No, but
hopefully.
I don't want him to come in and play 3 and I get beat.
Okay, but with some of the guys that you mentioned, yeah, they may be a little bit older and they have a little bit of an injury history, but if they're a veteran that played decent, that's enough to come in and potentially win this swing tackle job.
But my point is, I gave you 4 other names, and none of those anybody touched. Riley Reif was the guy they brought in,
grabbed,
right? Yeah. And they basically, if I can find a guy like that, that's fine. I don't think there's another one out there when you look at these guys that are available.
That's why they're trying to draft and develop themselves.
That's right, and that's what I want.
They spent a 4th-round draft pick on a backup tackle the last 2 drafts. And Tyler Smith, by the way, can play the position if you need him to.
Yep.
So they're trying to do it within. So this is where you find out. Pads come on today, we'll start to find out.
So
we'll
is the key to that? The key to that then, if they need to. And I don't know if a rookie, you want him bouncing from position to position, but can Connor McGovern play guard so if something happens, Tyler Smith can move the tackle?
Yeah, if they would want to put that much on him, yes, I guess they could. They started out calling Tyler a left side player, but like I said, I think so far it's been he's focusing on left guard.
He's been exclusively at left guard. Yeah. Now, he played tackle in college, so it's probably an easier transition, but I agree with you completely. Do you really want to put that much weight of versatility on a rookie? Because that's ultimately the question they're going to have to ask is if they – not only is he learning a new position, but, hey, by the way, we may need you in emergency duty over here.
I mean, if he's the best choice, then maybe you have to, but I think they would probably prefer not to.
Yeah.
He's trying to win a starting job inside, and that's where they want to start. And I think that's the right decision to let him focus on that at least for now. To your question about Tyler Biotis, I mean, if they don't seem worried about him based on what they did not do in the draft.
Yeah.
They have not. I mean, we can talk about Matt Farniok taking some snaps. Connor McGovern's an option maybe, but he's competing at left guard, just like I said with Tyler Smith. Tyler Biotis is the guy. And I agree with Mickey. I think they're trying to solve left guard, and because I think that combination, that's where teams were trying to attack last year, inside. And look at the Chiefs game as an example. Mickey mentioned a couple others. There's some things he can clean up, obviously, snaps, things like that. But I think they're going to give him look, he's the starting center. Yeah. He's the starting center.
So we need to keep an eye on Waletzko's injury.
Yes.
Because they kind of said we're looking at him as the swing guy.
Yep.
And
with him missing valuable practices.
Yeah, and I don't know if Josh Ball's ready to be a swing guy.
And they were going to keep monitoring Waletzko's injury. It sounded like it's you mentioned maybe a harness. It sounds like it could be a little subluxation of the shoulder.
Right.
So we'll see on that. Something you can play with, but
guys have played with it.
Yeah.
Mickey, give me one player to watch today really quickly, and he can't be named Josh Ball.
Can't be named Josh Ball.
No, because I feel like that's probably.
Oh, you mean any position or offensive
anybody
line?
Overall? Anybody. Just anybody you're watching in the first padded practice. We'll give you a homework report. You're going to give me a scouting report on what you saw Wednesday.
I am anxious to see Marquise Bell in pads.
Okay.
Because they're kind of grooming him behind Jaron Kearse.
Yep.
Kind of that rover safety. And I think one of his qualities will be his physicality close to the line of scrimmage.
Rob?
Tyler Smith in pads. Have not seen it yet. See how he functions against what we said. It's a pretty deep defensive line rotation. Flip side, I want to see John Ridgway in pads too. See how he fares in the trenches.
I asked for one name, Rob. That was
the
one I
Tyler
was going to
Smith.
give.
Go ahead.
No, I'm going to say Chauncey Golston in pads with a little bit of an added presence on the interior of the defensive line. I want to see what he can do as a 3 technique, 5 technique. Hopefully they move him around a little bit. I don't want to just see him inside once. I want to see him inside and rolling a couple different times up against this offensive line, really challenging that O-line to get physical and see a little bit of clicking and clacking. But that's going to do it for us here on Talking Cowboys on a Monday morning in Oxnard. Once again, we'll be back on Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Central. We'll give you all the rundown from what we've seen through the first 2 padded practices and get you ready for the rest of the week. For Mickey Spagnola, Rob Phillips, Chris Beam in the back, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. We'll see you next time on Talking Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?